Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 2 premiere of SurrealEstate. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I love that we're kind of jumping into the deep end where it's like, right, the agency is already in the middle of a case. In fact, they're at the end of a case, and they're working tooth and nail to get it done. But obviously, we get a little peek into their process of how differently things work without Luke, because even before Susan showed up, they had to rely on Luke's way of doing things for so long because he was kind of a cornerstone of how this whole operation worked. And now they have to adjust to not having that cornerstone, like using tiles as a means of communication, trying to figure out what the ghost want. So in this particular case, it was kind of almost a Cain and Abel situation where, the electrician brother killed the plumber brother, and to let the plumber brother, finally get free, they had to remove the electrician from the situation, and he was still trying to impede them in every way they could go. But it does seem like the team is running themselves ragged. Now, they were talking about it kind of like it's Susan's way, because she's also obviously she's doing normal houses, I think, because for her, it's like, this is her thing, this is her bag. She thrives in work because it allows her to not really take time, I think, to think on a lot of stuff. It allows her just to be working, and you don't have time to really stop and think. Because also she's in her stride, so I don't know if it's a situation of it's because she is taking on a whole bunch of, because even feels like, yo, maybe we should slow it down. We're all taking on a lot of cases. I heard you're taking on 3 more normies, because I guess our thing is we usually go for the strange ones, but it's I think Susan's adding more to it because she's probably going out of her way to get the normies as well, because that's her bread and butter. So it's not only is she steering the ship on the more supernatural side of things, but she's also killing it on the normie front. So it's running everyone a little ragged. It's right, is Luke going to come back? They have no idea, because after his circumstances being kind of taken away from him, something that you've relied on that was a curse, but it was also a blessing in many different ways. It being gone now reminds you of just how important it was to you, what it brought to you, how it connected you in so many other ways. And now you feel like he feels like he's lost a part of himself, and he hasn't really talked to the others about it. He's just kind of been on his own. Phil seems to be the one the most that kind of checks in on him from time to time. He ends up saying yo, I think I found your mom too. So Luke's got a lot going on. It's right, he's dealing with the fact is he doesn't have his power, so he's kind of lost his place in the world. It was his connective tissue with his dad, so he never had to ever fully let go. He never had to fully say goodbye, because unless someone moved on, they were always tentatively there. And I think it eases death a little bit when you're able to just talk to people, even when they're gone, and be able to help them to that greater beyond. But now it's that wasn't really a thing with me and my dad. I just now no longer have the power to talk to him anymore. So there's that. He ran into Megan. Finally, so that finally went down. The cell finally went down while he was away. It's the Arthur. I did not have a chance to rewatch season 1, but he is someone that they've done business with from time to time. He's kind of like a Stephen King-esque character of I go to creepy places to kind of get the creative juices flowing. He's like, if you can't scare the crap out of yourself, then how are you going to scare an audience type of thing? But he sees Megan, and Megan's moving on. In fact, she's leaving the day after tomorrow. So I think that just everything's hitting Luke at once. So it's while things are kind of spinning out of control, his attempt to kind of rein things back in, kind of convince himself no, I'm ready for this. I can do this. Because he was saying oh, I'll come back into work on Monday, because Phil was really pushing it. But it's now, because he's also seeing oh wow, they're doing great without me, but it's no, this is my company. I did start it. I kind of steered the ship, but it's even without my powers, I know what to do. I've done things for so long. It's very run of the mill. Problem is, he went into a situation underestimated, because by the time they're still under the belief, hey, there's a 10-year-old boy that died here. The kid-like voice. Oh, it's got to be this person. Because Susan's got her own process, which Luke completely dismisses by being yeah, it's basically my process without the instinct part of it. You kind of have to trust your gut. It's yeah, but your gut isn't trustworthy right now, because you're flying by the seat of your pants, because you feel like you have so much to prove, not only to the rest of the team, but to yourself, because you are feeling inadequate, because he's the one that brought Susan onto the team, and now it's like she's leading the charge. Like it's like the roles have been reversed season wise, so it's a hard pill to swallow, because now you feel like, especially because it, like, you know, obviously they're being a lot more to Susan, so it's like I think it rubs even more salt in the wound of like, not only is she killing it on this front, she doesn't have to fully rely on her powers. They come in handy from time to time, but Susan has got a knack for this, and now it's like, right, she's got her powers on top of that, and now Luke feels like, right, without my powers, like, what am I? Who am I without them? And can I really even do this job? Like, so he is overcompensating, and he is being very dickish to her, which, you know, Zoe calls him out for, like, oh, like, you're being very dismissive and condescending. And, you know, he's like, oh, we got like a lot of work to get through. But it's like, yeah, he's overcompensating because he feels lost. He even admits, like, yeah, kind of isolating her out of any, because like he's not treating anyone else on the team like that, because Susan's the one that really kind of replaces him. And it's like, that's going to be a tough pill for him to continue swallowing. And that's just going to push him and Susan further and further apart. Whereas like last season, they were coming closer and closer together as a team. He is inadvertently pushing her away, because it's like, because he's so insecure about his position on his team, but also where he belongs in all of this. Because like I was saying, like, he's just basing this on his instincts, but his instincts, his gut isn't really right without, you know, until you figured your own shit out. Like, you can't even trust your gut, because you can't trust yourself right now without your powers, because you think that's all there is to you. So until you can kind of get past that roadblock, you're never going to be able to really have those good instincts again, I think, even without your powers. Because he went into that situation, which could have gone severely sideways, because he thought like, right, it's a 10-year-old kid, I know what I'm doing. But it turned out, no, because you didn't wait. Like Susan was like, right, how much do we really know? But he's like, oh, so run of the mill. He's so quick to charge ahead, be like, I can prove myself. I can do this. I mean, I think it's almost a direct parallel to Susan, who was just kind of like, right, like, I'm not all to know about all this supernatural stuff, but I know how to sell houses. I know how to, you know, do all this stuff as a realtor, you know. So I think there is a interesting parallel there, like I said, with their roles now being reversed. But yeah, it turns out the guy was a serial killer. He just has a very naturally high voice, and he used it to his advantage to like lure people in. What I think is so interesting, though, it's like, oh, he has all these trophies from his kills, and Susan burned them. But the lady because he ended up leaving one of his trophies for, I mean, I'm assuming that's one of his trophies from his previous kill. But not unless he retrieved it back. And, you know, we never really got an answer to that, because I assumed she took it with her. So when they were like, oh, we got to bring all of his trophies back to him, I was like, didn't she take one of them? It's like, well, we saw her trying it on, but maybe she put it down and then he got it back. Like, they just never made a point of it. So I'm like, maybe they just kind of skipped over that. So I'm like, is that really over? I mean, I guess like Susan ends up burning all his trophies. So I guess like he's done in that regard, in that capacity. But I'm like, wouldn't there still be some lingering stuff because of that? I mean, not unless that ends up being a storyline of like, yeah, she kept that jewel. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into that. Like I said, maybe it might have been a part of the stuff that it got burnt. But like the fact is, it wasn't. I don't know. Like I said, he could have easily taken it back with him. But yeah, if it wasn't for Susan, like that situation would have played out very, very differently, because once again, they also have to find different means in which they communicate. So August is the one who was like, oh, let's use the tiles. He's using that little toy alien spaceship, a UFO, to be the communicating. Like you pull the string and, you know, you kind of, it's very low-tech, high-tech, very low-tech means of communication. Because I'm like, well, it's not high tech, because it is like very low tech in that capacity. But obviously, like, it's higher tech than using the tiles. But you can tell just with this episode alone, like I brought up earlier, like the division of that team, because it is probably going to be a situation of you're going to have to kind of choose sides because mom and dad are fighting right now. I could definitely see like Zoe and Phil and August are going to be the ones I think they're going to be in a very interesting spot. I think Zoe's backing Susan 100% because she recognizes Luke being a tool bag, which even her mom was like, right, you never fully know what anyone's really going through. Because she was like, Susan's like, yeah, I miss the old Luke, not this Luke. But it's like, yeah, you never fully know what anyone's going through. And so even her being like, her mom being like, I'm surprised you're actually working there and putting so much time there, considering like you've never been the type of person, you enjoy working and everything, but you've never been the type of person that never wants to put like all your eggs in a basket of like, right, without putting your own name, because it's not like it's her face on all the stuff, but it's still a thing of when stuff started going down, they're like, oh, where's Susan? And it's like, well, Susan's, handles all the house selling stuff. And Zoe's like, when it's, we're the squad that comes in when your walls start bleeding. It's like, well, what about Luke? It's like, it's still that. And now it's like, even when Luke showed up, they're like, oh, we almost didn't think you exist. He's like, yeah, I get that from time to time. So it's still the thing of, even though Susan's faces are on the signs, it's still the thing of, well, where's Luke? Because it's still his agency, his name is kind of what built it up. It's only been 2 months since season 1, so it's that because a lot of people recognize like, oh my God, you're a godsend, you're so great, Susan, but it's still the thing of, but where's Luke? Especially when the supernatural really starts kicking up, it's like, well, where's Luke? We know he's the person. So it's like, it undermines her in so many different ways. She has to go above and beyond to kind of prove herself. She already kind of had that issue with her previous job, and now she's kind of having it here. And once again, like, no one on the job disrespects her. Like, it wasn't an issue in these past 2 months until Luke came back. Once again, he's dealing with shit in his own way, but it still doesn't justify why he's doing it. So I'm curious to see how long it takes for him to kind of, like, get his shit together and not treat Susan like she's the outsider, because he's now the outsider. Like I said, he's just overcompensating. It does seem like, the fact is we didn't spend a lot of time with it, and considering, like, what the main thing of the episode was, I was like, okay, so that Susan home situation is going to be like a overarching story, kind of like Megan's house was like the overarching story last season, and how that place connects to Luke and his mom, and like that place being so key. I'm assuming the same thing is going to happen with Susan's new place, because she had talked to her mom about this place that they used to go to in the summers, and it was like, right, anytime Dad wasn't working all the time, we'd go there, and so it meant a lot. It has a special attachment to it, and she had just talked to that couple earlier in the episode about, hey, once you find that right place, it's like a soulmate, it clicks with you, and she found a place that gave her that feeling again. But this place has a home system that is responding to her and knows her name and everything, and she's like, oh, the bank must have inserted that information. It's playing music for her. It wants to make her as comfortable as possible, but she's not thinking much of it because nothing really weird's happened yet. But it's like, oh, the place is like, yeah, come back soon. So it's like, all right, so that's going to be the overarching thing, and it feels like it's coming at the perfect time. Because her mom even said like, oh, I didn't even know you were even thinking about movies. She's like, no, I didn't either until I found this place. So I think there's a little deeper element of like, maybe there's something kind of tantalizing, or even more. It's tantalizing. Almost said it like tantalizing her to kind of, because the titillating is a word, isn't it? Because I know tantalizing is, God, a mean word. Sorry. Either way, I'm wondering like if it's kind of almost giving off this energy like, oh, attracting you to it, seducing you in a little bit. Because like I said, you can tell she's overcompensating, because there was that moment later on when she went to the house, like after her first confrontation with Luke, where he just kind of like was super dismissive of her process, and she's kind of looking in the mirror and she's smiling, but then the smile quickly goes away. It's like, okay, I'm putting up a front, like I'm working so hard so I don't really have to think of it, because it probably is a lot. But she's like, hey, I'm soldiering on, I'm gonna do my thing, I'm gonna kill this. That she's probably very much like Luke, maybe overcompensating for the fact that maybe she's even running herself down a little bit. With just every situation that they're in, but she doesn't want to kind of let anyone know, because, she doesn't want to show any weakness, and especially in this line of business. So especially having been the leader for so long now, for 2 months, it's like, I can't show any cracks in the armor. I gotta keep going. So once again, maybe I'm overestimating, not overestimating, underestimating, Susan. That, like I said, I'm saying that maybe on some level is overcompensation, but maybe it's just like, no, this is just Susan in her environment and she's thriving, and it's just everyone else is having a hard time keeping up with, like, all of this. So but anyway, my point was, now that she's at this place that's seducing her, it's probably going to make her feel a lot more comfortable at a moment that she's having to, like, getting pushed out a little bit by Rome. I keep saying his last name because his first name, being being pushed out by Luke, I think that's how that story is probably going to further and further and deepen. I am curious whether this is going to be the only episode Megan's in. She might be in another episode, but like I said, she's leaving like the day after tomorrow, so which should be like, if the next episode picks up pretty quickly, it should be like the next episode will probably be when she's leaving, maybe potentially. So I'm sure that's just going to play a lot. And obviously, like I said, Luke's got a lot to deal with about his mom, even visit his dad's grave, because it's like, yeah, never had to go here. I mean, Funland isn't even fun. Like, nothing there, it's fun anymore as much, at least without you there. It's a lot quieter, and did not realize how deafening, silence can be for the first time in a long time, It's ultimately going to be really interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. I avoided watching the trailer, so I have no idea what to expect from this season. It's kind of not really asking to be told what happened in the trailer or what to expect. It's like, no, like I said, I like going into this knowing as little as possible. So I'm really curious to see where this season ultimately ends up taking the Roman agency, like throughout what journeys and mishaps and shenanigans they fall into, and what this means for Luke now that his mom has potentially been found, and maybe getting answers, about why she left and why she did what she did. So a lot of that we'll ultimately have to wait and see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good